Okay, cool. I thought I would make a quick video to show some of the power of what you can do with artificial intelligence, a lot of the new large language model technology when you're trying to do something like journalism or government accountability. So, I'm Tom Hayden. I run Foya Gra, but I'm also a software developer. I run my own company. I do machine learning consulting, a lot of stuff like that. Let's kind of get into it. So, suppose you have a government body that's putting out a lot of documents, right? Like you can go through it. The old way is you take your ADHD medicine, you go through it, and you crank through it as quickly as you can, and you try to find all the pieces of information. Some of these large language model technologies really change the way that you can do this stuff. So suppose you have a case like this, right? So you've got city council agendas, you've got some minutes. Seems fine. So what you can do now, and so in the old days, let's say you find an agenda packet. I don't know. Let's just pick one. Noise, energy, modernization, presentation. Let's just pick this packet here. Let's see what's in here. This is the most recent. So this is the most recent City of Evanston sort of government packet, right? It's like pretty standard stuff. How many pages is it? 358 pages, right? So 358 pages is a lot of pages to go through. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to save this document. Save it to file. Okay. So we save this document. The next thing I'm going to do is I've built these set of tools, which I use in my business, but a lot of people are building tools like this. It's called a RAG, a Retrieval Augmentation Generation System. So here's mine. So this is one of the groups I have inside of mine where I've uploaded all the Evanston city budgets, right? One thing we can do is we can upload just a single document too. Or we can upload the document that we just saw. So, for instance, this one's just the city budgets. But what we can do is we can actually go and upload the document that we just downloaded. So, what I can do is I can go to my product's called the Spec Doctor, and this is not an advertisement for that product or anything. But I use it for generating paint specs, for generating sort of industrial type of stuff. But it can be used really for anything. So, what we can do is we can go to Add Documents. So we're going to add a new document. We're going to choose the one we just downloaded. And so what's cool is I can pick which tech stack I want to use. So there's all these large language model stacks out there now. OpenAI, Google Gemini has one. AWS has one called Claude. It's actually through a company called Anthropic. And I can pick which one I want to process it. The best one right now is GPT-4o. So I'm going to pick that, the main agenda, and we're going to add this document. And so this document will probably take a few minutes to process. Because what it needs to do is we need to take that whole PDF, it gets digitized, turned into sort of parsable information, and then it gets processed by the large language model. So while that's running, what we can do is we can go look at the existing documents we have in here. So what I did is I went through, and you can see these are the ones that have already been processed, and I'll pick one. This one's the February 2024 City Monthly Financial Report, so I can click it. This is the city's monthly financial report. And the reason why this report is interesting is it contains, all of the different fund balances that the city of Evanston has, right? So these are pretty, the 911 fund, reparations fund, ARPA fund, general fund, whatever. So it's all in here. And I can actually go in here, and it also contains a bunch of other stuff, some of the overall expenses, so on and so forth. What makes these large language models really powerful is then I can then chat with the document in a way. So I can say new chat. Let's create a new chat here. And I can say, okay, tell me about the revenue and expenses for the reparations fund. And so what's going to go out there and do is it's taking this document, which has already been digitized and cached, it's sending it out to the large language model, and it's here it's giving me a result here. So reparations fund, here's the interest income they received that month, intergovernmental revenue, expenses. So it processed that document. So it can do one document pretty quick. You saw how quickly that was. It had a net revenue of negative whatever, it had a fund balance, cash balance. And so that was just a single month. But what I can do then is I could also keep having a chat. I could say like, okay, what were the expenses for? I don't know if that's in this document, but let's see. And so it should be pretty fast. Here we go. So, the expenses, $8,000 for services and supplies, $274 for miscellaneous, which I don't know how and that's the total expense. Categorized under miscellaneous. So let's see. Tell me more about the miscellaneous expenses. So if you're doing journalism or you're doing research, this is a really useful tool because it's like, well, what am I, I don't necessarily understand anything. Sometimes it's hard. Okay, so here's the miscellaneous. It doesn't provide a breakdown, but it says what it is, and it tells me to call the city treasurer. So that's cool. But let's go back to our original one. So one of the things that we had was you can also group documents together in this framework. So like, let's refresh this. It's a little slow to refresh. So, I'm a software developer. This is still a thing in progress. Yeah, it's still converting that big document, but what we can do is we can actually chat with the whole group of documents too. So what I did is I went in here and I said, okay, show me the reparations fund balance from October 22 to the present. So I had uploaded to each of those documents, and so now I can say, okay, go out to all of them, do this research, and combine this all together. And so it did, and so it gave me this data set, which has the fund balances for each month. That's kind of cool, but what I really want is, can you give this to me in a CSV format so I can copy and paste it into Google Docs. And so now what it's going to do is it's going to do the same thing. This one might take a while because it's actually going to go out to all the documents again. It's a little slow, but it's going to go out to all those documents. It's going to collect those balances. It's going to put them all together in a nice formatted thing where I can then put it into a Google Docs, right? So let's give this a second. And while this is running, I can go back up to what we were originally looking at here. Let me open that up in a new tab here. Let's see, it's still converting our PDF from earlier. But this is gets really powerful, is where you can then say, okay, well, so it's still digitizing our document. But you can send it and say, okay, well, I've got this big document, 387 pages, give it to the large language model. Hopefully it can handle the document that size. I don't know. They're pretty limited on the amount of input they can take, but let's see, it's digitized it already. So now we're sending it to the large language model. Let's see if it works. While we're waiting, okay, so here's this one's still querying. Yeah, it's got to do 21 different subtasks. So what it's doing is it's going out to each of the documents and saying, hey, here's this financial report, give me this number, and then it has a sort of collector at the end that takes all of those individual documents, combines them all into one, and you get like a nice thing that I can put into a spreadsheet. And then that will allow me to sort of do investigative journalism, right? I can then say, okay, well, in the past I would have had to hire an intern or hire someone on Upwork to go out and collect all this information. Nowadays, I can do it right in here. And, this technology is getting better. Like, they just released GPT 4.0, like, I don't know, last week or something, which is probably the state of the art right now. But like I said, there's other companies that offer services like this too, right? There's one called Anthropic, which is a startup. And all of these offer APIs. I'm just integrating, my tool here is just integrating with the API. So, there's one called Anthropic, which is a startup, which I integrate through AWS, same as on web services. Google has one called Gemini, which is very good. Gemini was in the news a bunch when it came out, but it's probably one of the better ones. And then there's GPT 4.0, which is run by ChatGPT, or the people that do ChatGPT, OpenAI. So while we're waiting for that thing to run, let's see if our other document finished processing here. We'll refresh this page. Give it a second. Still going. Okay, so my guess is it's probably too big, so let's go see. Yeah, it's 209,000 tokens, so that's too big. So what we can do is we can switch the technology on this one. So GPT 4.0 has a limit, I think it's of 128,000 tokens. So we'll switch this one over to Gemini, and we'll let it recalculate, and I think it'll work if we do that. Let's go back over here. This subtask will be done shortly. And I think to start a new Google Sheets, I think I just go to sheets.new, and then we'll load that. Yeah, so we'll make a new Google Sheet here. We can then go back over here, wait for this thing to finish. Go back to our original document here too. See what the status is on this big document on the city packet that we uploaded. Now it should work. It's going through Gemini now, so it should work. Gemini's a lot better. This one is still running. You can see it's slow. It's going through a lot of documents, so it really does take some time. Hopefully it works though. Alternatively, I could just go in here and copy paste these. Here's this one, here's this one, here's this one. Copy paste them. But I would like it to be in this nice format that I can work with. But I don't know if it's created in here or not. Live demos are always fraught. Let's see what the city situation is, and this one's still going. There we go. Okay, so the city council agenda one finished. Whoops, where did it go? Here it is. Let's go into it. And so we processed this one with Gemini because it's bigger, and Gemini has a much bigger token window, a much bigger window for documents. And I can go in here and I can say new chat. And I can say, oh, why did I do that? I can say, okay, I'm a journalist and I research the Evanston City Council. Tell me if there is anything notable in the meeting minutes here that may indicate corruption or fraud. All right, so it will go through this. They're not meeting minutes, but whatever. It'll still go through it. It's smart enough to know how to do that. So we'll give it a few minutes there. This one somehow I'm guessing it crashed. So I'll have to demo. I'll have to demo that later. But for now, what I could do is I could just go into here and I can say, okay, October, date, amount, October 2022, November 2022, pull that down, then I know that that's the October 22 amount, and I can just go through here and copy and paste it, right? Like that would be, here's November 2022, oops, and I could just work my way through this. I'm not going to though. Maybe it will finish while we're still waiting. It's just a slow task that needs to run. Okay, I cannot offer. However, you may want to recommend allocating $500,000 to address homelessness in Evanston. The funding source has not yet been determined. That's interesting, right? So the funding source is not yet, and even the Howard Ridge TIF has an unballoted transfer of the general fund. It's up to you to decide. This is a weird response. One of these things about these large language models, especially the ones by Google, they have things that are called safety teams. I get frustrated with AI safety in this case because it's really hedging itself, right? A big percentage of AI safety, some of it is about safety, right? Like you don't want these tools to sort of, give you the anarchist cookbook. But at the same time, these tools very often hedge themselves when it comes to being critical of the government or any government agency. And why is that? And I think it's because companies like Google and OpenAI are trying to run these tools in places like China, or places with more repressive governments. But let's continue our chat here. Okay, that's interesting. The funding source for the homelessness has not been addressed. How do you know that? So we'll let it do that. Is this thing finished? Yeah, this thing is stuck. Let's refresh it. Maybe it's not stuck. And you build tools. Sometimes they work. Sometimes they don't. Let's see here. I would like it to be copy-pastable. Oops. So go here. Let's see. Okay, so something went wrong here. Let me try it again. Can you provide me with this in a CSV format I can put into Excel? We'll try it again. Maybe it'll work this time. There's probably a bug now I gotta go find and fix. So that's fun. Okay, so let's go back to here. The information is from this. It states that funding options have not yet been determined. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, what's the story on the Howard Ridge TIF? What do you know about the building they want to purchase there? And so it's going to go through the document and see if it brings anything up. But again, like these are really interesting. I think both of these things here are notable stories, right? Like I've seen both these stories in the roundtable, and so okay, here we go. The city of Evanston wants to purchase. The property is currently occupied by the clothes and laundromat. It was appraised at $750, but the city's purchasing it for $950. What? Wow, that's really interesting. Why is the city paying $200,000 more? Okay, so this is the sort of the thing where you're like, okay, is there a story here? And so these large language models really help aggregate, collect information. They really help you process large documents and identify things that are useful in large documents that would, going through a 384-page document in the past might have taken me, 15 minutes of hitting page down. But it's very fast now. So we'll let this thing finish, and then I'll end the video here. And I think this is going to be posted in the story with some of the data from the reparations fund. So you're probably watching that. So by the time you watch that, I will have fixed the problem here. Let's let this finish here. We'll give it one more second, and then we'll call it a day on this. This is already a 15-minute long video. Dang. Let this finish. Let's see if this thing is finished over here. Nope, they're both running. I think this one, I broke something on the back end of the system here. And maybe this one might be broken too. Okay, this document doesn't mention why the city is paying more than the appraised value. It does mention that the appraisal of $750 did not include the value of business improvements. Huh, why would... You may wish to contact the Evanston's Business Development Vault. Okay, you know what, I might actually go do that. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, email me, tom@foigra.com, thayden@gmail.com. Yeah, have a good weekend.